We're affiliated?
We're affiliated with Zana di Serpente.
Oh, we are? I had no clue. Oh my. Oh my god, people, look at the channel you're on. We are the two hosts and two founders of Zana de Serpente Studios. Hello and welcome. I hope you stick around because we've got some cool video game discussions ahead of us. So sit back, relax, and enjoy this crazy roller coaster you're about to go on.
According to the video game ESRB rating system, I would put us at a T.
DLC that is overpriced and you don't really get your bang for your buck.
So most paid DLC.
I mean, can you tell me a paid DLC that is actually worth it? And I'm not talking about DLC that you get as part of, say, a deluxe or premium edition. I'm talking about straight up post launch um, unexpected DLC, or even some expected DLC that isn't included in any other bundle.
The only kind of DLC that I like to pay for is stuff that actually adds extra content to the game besides stupid cosmetic shit. Like basically like expansions, like an expansion pack in like certain games like World of Warcraft technically when they come out with a new expansion. Like in a way that's like buying more DLC.
Oh yeah,
So like it'll add new continents, new quests, new kind of stuff like that, but like for me, cosmetic only DLC that people pay for, like it boggles my mind that people spend that much money on that kind of stupid shit.
yeah. As a major practice that it's a double-edged sword. If you're going to add, say, I'm going to use one of my favorites as a prime example, Assassin's Creed Valhalla.
Yard.
That game, you get in-game armor sets, you get in-game weapons, you get in-game a lot of stuff. But then they sell in their store, like development for that game is done, so it's a dead game at this point. But they had more armor, cosmetic, whatever's in their paid store, tenfold more than you could get in the game itself. And the stats on everything, while they make cool effects, started to be pointless.
Yeah, it's like I said, one of the first games to ever do it was Oblivion with the stupid elf armor, horse armor you could get for your stupid horse. It was like 100% completely useless, and when it first came out, they were charging a lot of money for it, and like I never bought it. I thought it was dumb. It doesn't even look that cool.
But that's the thing with Assassin's Creed. Their stuff looks cool, but and yes, I'm guilty. I ended up getting some of it, but at the end of the day, in hindsight, if I had to go back and not make those purchases, I wouldn't.
Yeah.
Because I thought they're going to add New Game Plus into the game and add more value to getting this content.
Yeah, like the only time I've ever gotten stuff like that myself is like you said when you buy like the deluxe editions or whatever that comes with all the or the game of the year editions or whatever that comes with all the extra DLC involved with it. Like I've never gone out and bought the individual DLC packs as they come out. Like I'll
Yeah.
always wait for like when the freaking game drops their whatever.
Wait until it's on sale, basically,
Yeah.
and get the best bang for your buck.
Yeah, like a lot of the times I won't even buy certain games come out, brand new drop because I know that they're going to like, hey, this is going to have expansions later and DLC later, so I'm like, I'll wait for the version that comes with all the DLC to come out.
And some
conversion.
games do that.
Yeah, some
Some
games do.
some games don't do that. Like, prime example, this is something I'm dealing with right now that I'm really not a fan of, is Forza Horizon 5. The game launched with, you could get the standard edition, or the deluxe and premium got a car pass, which gave you a bunch of cars for free. And then you could also get the expansion pass, which came with 2 expansions. Um, well, here's the real kicker. 2023, they started selling additional car packs without any warning, and it made absolutely no sense for how they were running the game up until then.
Right.
And this has pissed off a lot of people because they're basically gatekeeping really cool performing cars, really cool looking cars against a paywall that no one expected because they haven't done car packs per se properly since Forza Horizon 3. Like, yeah, they had 2 minor car packs in Horizon 4, but now it's like there's been a car pack almost every other month in Horizon 5 for the past 6, 7 months. And it's getting ridiculous. And it's like, why would I want to pay even more when I don't feel like I'm getting the value?
True.
Like, I've already paid how much for the game? If you have the premium add-on bundle, it's like, it's getting ridiculous. Like, how do we define good value for this stuff?
Um, Whatever people will pay is what defines the value. As long as people keep buying those useless DLCs and stuff, companies will keep making them. It's just like Bethesda. Like as long as people keep buying Skyrim when they re-release it, they're going to keep re-releasing.
Yeah, until they come up with what, Elder Scrolls 6?
Yeah, that one's in development, but like even then, like in another 10 years, if they after um, Elder Scrolls 6 has come out, if they release a 30-year edition of Skyrim, I guarantee you people will still buy it.
Absolutely, absolutely. But
Or 20-year, not 10-year, 30-year. My brain's not working today. I didn't have enough caffeine yet.
so, when it comes to DLC, what kind of DLC would you want for a starting bundle, like a deluxe or premium? And how much would you want to pay for something?
Like there's been a few games that I've bought at launch that have, um, like you say, the deluxe bundle that comes with the I guess they call it nowadays the season pass that will like as they come
Yep.
out you will get the DLCs as they come out, so like you it's basically like pre-ordering the DLC kind of when you buy the base version of the game. Like those, like if it's a really cool game that I think I will really like I'll admit when Starfield dropped at first, yeah, I was just playing the Game Pass version because it was free. And then on Steam, I went out and did buy the deluxe edition. So like when the DLC for it comes out, I will get the DLC for it. And like it did come with like one or two bonus items directly when the game came out. You got like the Mars skin pack or something for certain things. And I still really even haven't played that game that much, so it was kind of a purchase that I probably didn't really need to make at the time. And I know there has been a lot of backlash from fans about that game, saying it's not as good as everyone thought it was going to be. But the little bit of it that I did play, I did enjoy. I was having fun with it. I've just had other
Well,
things in my life come up. Like obviously, I thought it was good enough to when I after I had played the free Game Pass version on Xbox and stuff. Then I was like, yeah, I'll go ahead and buy the deluxe edition for it when it. So I'll get those extra DLCs when they do drop.
what DLCs can you actually speak to that either you've enjoyed or you regret? Like for me, I'll openly say it. Um, I regret getting the Hot Wheels extension on Forza Horizon 5. That extension was great. It had cool elements, sure, but as a whole, it's pretty forgettable. Like, I don't find myself going back there to do anything.
That's true. There's like a lot of that comes from like me and you also just play different types of games.
True, true. Well,
I would probably never even buy specifically go out and buy a Forza game because or any racing game because I'm just not a fan of those games. Like I'll play them every once in a while, but like it's not my thing. So
well,
I definitely wouldn't buy them, and I definitely would not buy any DLC packs for them.
looking for even what DLC do you either you're glad about doing or you regret?
Um, like for me, like been a long time player of Skyrim since it came out. You know, so like when it first came out, yeah, it just had the vanilla version of Skyrim, which definitely had a lot of fun in, and then they had the two or the three DLCs that have come out. Um, two of them were really good. The Dragonborn DLC one unlocks a whole nother island you can go to and do a whole nother quest system and all their other side quests and explorations. Anyone who's a fan of Skyrim knows about the fun parts of playing that. Um, I did not really particularly care for the I think it was called hearth or whatever, homesteading or whatever. Like the cool part about that is you kind of get to build houses and stuff, and like you could like, but like, it's kind of cool, kind of lame because like you can slightly customize the house you build by like you can pick from like three different options for each wing of the house that you can build, but like it's not really a whole lot of customization in it. Like it could have been done so much better where you can like actually build stuff yourself instead of just like pick from certain options. Like, okay, you can have on the left wing, you could have an alchemy, extra bedrooms, or some other different options. And I'm like, yeah, and so like you can mix and match and make each house like you can only build three houses in the game too. Like so, I'm like if they had expanded on that and made it more customizable, more stuff, but like also considering the game did come out over 10 years ago, it was pretty groundbreaking at the time. But just like and then a big part of that was I think you were able to adopt kids and stuff. I'm like, for certain people, they love the ability to adopt kids in that game. Like me, yeah, I think the kids in that game are annoying, and they're lucky that the developers of the game made it that all children in the game are marked as I forget what their specific word for it right now off the top of my head is, but basically they're unkillable. You can't kill the kids in that game, which like trust me, and I'm not the only one who's like, if I could, I would just freaking kill some of the kids just because they're annoying.
Hold up. Are you saying you'd go Anakin Skywalker Jedi Temple of the Jedi Slayer 9000?
I mean, I wouldn't kill all of the kids, but there are certain kids in that game that it's just like they come up.
So you're saying you'd go Anakin Skywalker
Yes,
with the
I would slaughter.
Jedi Slayer. Yeah.
I would totally, especially with some of the like since it's a role playing game, some of the characters I've role played as, I'm like, yeah, I would totally murk these kids.
For the record, everyone, we are not advocating violence on real people. These are video game characters.
Obviously, I would never hurt a person in real life. Like I've often made.
Yeah, I'm just making it perfectly clear for any parents who might be listening.
Not even just parents, just any freaking people who are like, oh my god, they're advocating violence on children or anybody. Like I've often made the joke, like I've killed my brother thousands of times. It's always been a digital version of him because he's like in video
Yep.
games, and he's also killed me thousands and thousands of times. So, but in real life, no, I would never even try to hurt my brother or my
So
or
back, so back to the question about DLC. Do you remember how much the DLC for Skyrim cost?
When they first came out, no, but also, like I mentioned earlier, I didn't buy each DLC as it came out. I went and waited for the uh, deluxe edition or special editions, whatever. Like everyone knows, Skyrim knows that they've had so many different versions of it, and every version of it that you can buy nowadays comes with all the DLC uh, with it, so you can't even buy just the
Right.
original. I mean, I guess you might be able to buy it on like good old games or something, but like I don't know why anyone would because it's really bad.
So do you think the price for the DLC, do you think it's worth it?
Um, Especially nowadays, considering you can probably get it for like $20. Yeah, it's worth it.
When it first came out, do you think it would have been worth it?
Probably certain ones, like the Hearthfire one. Like I said, like if I could play that game without that DLC, I probably would. But like I said, since they all come with it nowadays, it's in there. And most of the time, I don't do that DLC when I'm playing it. So like I said, like I never adopt the kids, and I don't ever do the whole you can get married and raise a family. I mean, sometimes I will do the you get married thing because if you marry certain characters, they will like have a store or whatever, so you can come home and be like and get your cut of the money from the store, so you get extra money.
Oh, nice.
Or there's certain in-game buffs you can get, like if you go back to your house and sleep in the bed at the same time your spouse is sleeping, you get a little temporary buff, for sleeping with your spouse, basically.
Okay.
When I say sleeping with, I don't mean having sex with, even though with certain mods that's a possibility too, but we won't.
I I mean with mods anything's possible. Let's face it.
Yeah.
Now then, we've been talking about paid DLC. We've been talking about DLC post launch that wasn't part of a bundle. We've talked about DLC that comes with bundles. How much for, say, a world expansion or map expansion? How much do you think that is really worth these days? In monetary numbers.
Again, like it totally depends on the game and what they include with it and how big the expansion is. But like going back to like games like World of Warcraft, where they when they do expansions, they're I don't even know the price of them now. I haven't played WoW in years, but back in the day, I think they were like another $40 or so for the expansion.
Right.
But it
Like,
was worth it because like it's basically was like each time adding like not just a small little chunk like the first expansion Burning Crusade added a whole nother basically planet you could go to and
okay.
super quest like the WoW expansions at least back in the day when I used to play it I totally thought were worth it because they added so much extra stuff. They were basically like adding a whole nother game to the game.
Right. In modern day gaming, for me personally, the games I play that I'll get the expansions for mostly the Forza and the Assassin's Creed.
Mm-hmm.
I found it very difficult to make that judgment call. Like with, say, the last, I'm just going to use the last three big titles for Assassin's Creed. Each one has had expansions that have been world expansions. And Valhalla, eh, mediocre at best. Um, like that's my personal opinion. Anyone from Ubisoft out there, again, my honest opinion, mediocre at best. Wrath of the Druids, cool concept, dude, but nothing breathtakingly
like
great.
like how much were those expansions and how much did you wind up paying for them?
I ended up getting the expansion bundle for them, which was cheaper than buying them individually because individually they're like 15 to $20 a piece,
Right.
and I think the bundle was like 25.
Yeah, like for me, it's so you know me, I'm always about the bundles on stuff.
Yeah, yeah. So for me, for that game, yeah, I got some cool cosmetics, some cool weapons from both of them, but I don't know. I felt like the stories that they told really were not great. Like it wasn't like they both of them had potential, but eh. And then they had another expansion for the game that was paid. That was like $40 dang. That yeah, like
Regular dollars.
that's no kidding. Like 40 for one expansion. And it was a so Valhalla, for those of you who don't already know, it relies more on the mythology side of things than the historic location. And this expansion is all about the mythology in a way that it did not add to the main story of the game. And it added really cool stuff, but you could only use this cool stuff in that expansion.
Yeah, like that's kind of lame. Where you can only they have expansions where like, oh, you will get a new spell or whatever, but you could only use it in this one area. Like that would be.
Exactly. Like the weapons you got from it, you could use wherever in the base game or the other two expansions, but you got mythical powers that, again, you can only use there. And it was just like, Ubisoft, are you making a literal mythical fantasy game, or are you trying to make Assassin's Creed? It did not fit at all.
Yeah.
Like, and I was very disappointed by it because it looked great, it performed great, but I felt limited, and I did not feel it was worth $40. It was not. The story of it was not long enough to warrant $40. I would have paid maybe 15 for it tops.
Yeah, stuff you just said kind of reminded me a little bit about like I brought up the Burning Crusade expansion for World of Warcraft a little bit ago. Like
Yeah,
basically, like to me, it was worth the cost of the expansion plus the monthly subscription fee because it did like it increased your level cap. You got new spells that you could use everywhere. You know, new armors, all that kind of stuff. But there were certain things that you could only do in the Outlands, is the name of the new place. Like once you hit a certain level, you could get a flying mount where you could, you know, instead of just riding your horse everywhere, you could get on a griffin or whatever. I can't remember
oh,
what
nice.
it was called for the horde side. But at the time when that game first came out, you could only use the flying mount in Outland. You couldn't go back to the regular world and use it. Nowadays, years later, after like the third or fourth expansion, they unlocked where yeah, you can use the flying mount everywhere.
Oh,
But
jeez.
but back in the day, like once you got the flying mount, you could only use it in Outland. And then the next expansion came out, and you went to Ice Crown in the freaking northern part of the real world. And again, after a certain level near the end of the expansion, you unlocked cold weather flying, where you could have a flying mount that worked in up in the Ice Crown area, but it wouldn't work in down in the regular part of the world. So like, and then eventually, I think it was the next expansion after that they, or maybe the second one after that, where they unlocked where yeah you can fly everywhere after a certain level. So like it was kind of nice to be able to like, oh yeah, I can fly around in these other parts of the world, you know, and then like whereas before in like the regular part, the main continent of the world, like they had flying available, but it was only like certain flight paths. Like you would have to go to from one city, you'd go to the flight master and you'd pay each time you use it to fly from one city to another kind of a thing on a preset, you know, you don't control the flight, you just get on the little bird thing and it flies you there. And you would also have to discover each flight path before you could fly to a new one. So you would have to run there or ride your normal horse mount or whatever you had version to get from point A to point B. And then once you unlock the flight paths, you could fly in between them. However, you also had to unlock all the connecting flight paths in between for certain flight paths. Like if you discovered this one flight path down in like Stormwind was the main human city, and you found a flight path that was somewhere very far in the north without going to the Ice Crown Citadel yet, because that didn't exist. But if you didn't have the connecting flight path in between those two ones, you couldn't fly between them.
Interesting.
But yeah, I used to love old WoW, classic WoW. Like And I'm not the only one because like even nowadays they've started re-releasing all the old stuff in what they call WoW Classic, where they had the first one and they came out with the second one, and like I started playing it again a little bit when they did the Ice Crown or Wrath of the Lich King was the name of the second expansion. I played it again a little bit for that, but then like I couldn't really keep up with the monthly subscriptions because I'm not super rich anymore. I'm always broke.
The life of a gamer.
I need more monies. Yeah, I don't play too many subscription games anymore because I just can't afford it. Like I always liked them, most of them anyway. Like there's been some games I've where like they had subscriptions and I'm like, yeah, not worth it. I'm not gonna keep playing it.
So I'm going to give you a prime example of a DLC that expansion that I did enjoy that I felt was worth the money.
Oh,
Assassin's Creed Odyssey.
Odyssey.
That one had a great expansion. Granted, it was mythical, but did also add to the story itself of the main character.
Right. Like yeah, for me, that's a big deal too. Especially since I play a lot of role playing type games. I play the
Yeah.
games for the story more than like, oh, rush through and blitz to beat the game or become the high level as fast as I can. Like for me, that's not playing a game and enjoying it. That's like, oh, I'm trying to be world,
Set a record.
do this
Yeah.
fastest person to level from one to max level at whatever it was at the time. Like nobody really cares about that stuff. I'm like, yeah, it's kind of cool. Like,
Well, some people do.
yeah, but like the majority of people, like, yeah, like for me, like, yeah, speedrunning is obviously a thing, and setting records, like, yeah, that's cool, but like that's not why I personally play games, and it's not why a lot of people
Yeah.
play games.
We want, especially good stories, good character development,
Right.
good fun. And this DLC, Fate of Atlantis, people
Oh, did they have?
probably feel mixed about it. Not that Atlantis minded. This is pure mythology.
That's
And it literally gave you
based off of though.
three different maps to explore that are all three of them are completely different from each other.
That's cool.
And the stories contained in each one were really interesting.
Yeah, like I like games that have expansions that expand on the story or
Yeah.
different, even sometimes ones that will give a different point of view of
Yeah.
like I used to play Dragon Age a lot when it first came out, and one of the expansions for that is you got to play as the other faction for a couple of missions. Like, yeah, it wasn't the best expansion ever, and I wouldn't have bought it uh, by itself for that, but I did get, like I said, the special edition that has all the expansions in it. And when I played it, I'm like, yeah, it was fun for a little bit. Like, it wasn't very long either, so like it wasn't as in depth of it, but like it was kind of fun to be like, hey, I get to play the bad guys, kind of a thing.
Right. Speaking of the bad guys, I also say for Fate of Atlantis, the boss battles in that game were phenomenal. Like, I would controversial opinion in the Assassin's Creed world of the newer trilogy of games. But I felt the boss battles in Fate of Atlantis and the random boss fights you could go do around the core map of Odyssey were some of the best boss battles in Assassin's Creed. Like they're all pure mythology based. But granted that man, they are really, really good. Like Cerberus, for example. You fight Cerberus.
You mean Fluffy?
You fight Medusa. You fight a couple different Cyclopses. Down in Crete, I think it's Crete. Fact check me if I'm wrong. But you get to fight a Minotaur.
Minotaur. Just kidding.
And
Tomato.
those battles are amazing. And the DLC battles, so Cerberus, you also fight Hades. Um, and then I forget what the boss battle in Atlantis itself is. But I remember it was just really, really good. And literally that alone, those boss battles alone, on top of the world, made that expansion worth it.
I've never really played that one. Is Odysseus in that game at all? How do you have a game based off his adventures and not have Odysseus in it? That's messed up.
I mean, from a certain point of view, you could almost say you're playing as Odysseus from a certain point of view.
Yeah, because like everything you just said, I'm like, yep, that's in the Odyssey, that's in the Odyssey, that's in the Odyssey. So they basically took the Odyssey and made it. I guess that's why it's called Assassin's Creed Odyssey. I've actually read the original version of the Odyssey. It's a great freaking story. Everyone should read it. Homer was a great
Oh
author.
yeah, absolutely. But yeah, that expansion well worth the price. I think again that one was probably if you bought it standalone, it was probably $15 to $20. The bundle for that and the other expansion they had was probably 25.
Noise.
So yeah, that was a great expansion. I'm going to give one more example of an expansion that I felt was good, and that was Forza Horizon 5's Rally expansion. That map itself was phenomenal, and many argue if they'd made it massive, like the size of the base map, it would have been even better.
Wider is better.
Well,
Wasn't that the old commercial for that one car company?
I don't know.
I think it was.
But now then, I feel like we've talked a lot about paid expansions, paid DLC. How do you feel about free DLC? And what is worth it for developers to do for free versus what should they be paid for DLC?
Well, first of all, developers should be paid for everything that they're doing.
But by the consumers.
Yeah, I was gonna say. Um, certain DLC is like if for me, I think a lot of cosmetic stuff should either be free or unlockable in games. Like I don't like I'm an old school game player like where you could like unlock new playable characters or just new skins for your character. Like that's my belief. I'm like I'm not gonna spend money on oh look it's the same character same skin just a slightly different color variation. I think that's stupid that people will spend
Yeah.
money and buy that kind of
Oh
crap. Like
yeah.
that kind of stuff should be free because if it's just a color variation, that takes like 5 seconds to do for a developer to change something like that. So like that kind of stuff, those kind of DLCs should be free. Now, like if you're actually creating a different model for a character skin or something, and you're like where the armor like actually looks different and has different geometry and stuff, like I can understand charging a little bit for that kind of a DLC. Personally, me, I again wouldn't buy it because I think those kind of things are just dumb. My personal opinion. I'm not saying anyone who buys those things
Guilty.
is wrong.
Guilty.
Yeah, like I said, like I've gotten some of those things too, but always as part of a bundle pack kind of a thing. Like I wouldn't personally spend like, oh, I like that armor set. I'm gonna go out and buy that particular one individually.
Yeah.
That's just my thing. Part of that comes from also not having excess money a lot of the times.
True.
So like if people have plenty of money and like it's not necessarily a waste of money if they have all the disposable income
Yeah.
and like the argument against like I say like all that stuff should be unlockable. Like not everybody that plays games has the time to do whatever it takes to unlock certain things in games. That's why I think certain things should be a choice kind of a thing. Like, yeah, if you've got the time, you can go through and do the stuff to unlock it, or if you've got the disposable income, and you want to pay for stuff, especially if it's like cosmetic stuff or whatever. I'm like, yeah, go ahead and let those players that don't have, the same amount of free time to play games, if they want certain things to make their character look cooler, let them go ahead and pay for it. I'm not against that, but I think like the fact that they lock some of those things behind a paywall is dumb.
How about in the context of live service games or free to play games?
Um, I don't play very many of those myself because often free to play games, like you said, they have those catch 22s where, yeah, they're free to play, but then they become pay to win type of games, and I'm not a fan of that myself.
Prime example of what you just described. As much as I love it, Disney Speedstorm. That game is heavily monetized. It became free to play, and in order to rank up all your characters in online, didn't say pay to play. Didn't say pay to win, pay to play basically. And it is absolutely terrible with that.
Like I will say a lot of mobile games are like that. They're like, oh yeah, it's free. You can download it for free and play it, but you're either going to spend 40 years grinding to unlock something or spend money to get the thing within a
Yeah.
reasonable amount of time. And I'm like, basically becomes like I said, a pay to win type of thing. And like
Yep.
one thing, it's like one thing if it's like a player versus player type of game, and it's another thing if like, oh, you're just still playing against the computer, but it's going to take 5 weeks to unlock the next level of the building that you need to advance the game, or you can spend 99 cents to unlock it now. I'm like, on one hand, like I get it because if it's a free to begin with, the developers need to make money off of that. But as
Yeah.
a consumer, I'm like, I am not a fan of that. Like, I don't like the pay to win things. Like, I would rather pay for a game and get that stuff to be a reasonable grind to get to it versus like, oh, you get this. Like I said, like you need to unlock the next level of a building in whatever type of RTS type game to be able to build the units that you need to defeat this thing. You can, let you can
Right.
play the game for like multiple days at times. I've seen them, or you can charge the 99 cents, and it's like 99 cents or whatever each time you need to upgrade something. And I'm like, I would rather spend like even if it's a free game or whatever, I would rather spend like X amount of dollars to be able to unlock the different, speed boost things at a constant rate instead of. But then it just becomes a black hole of like as they add more stuff, even with the speed boosted stuff, they will take even longer and longer and longer. Like it's both horrible and, as I said, at the same time, it's like I understand it. These places are businesses; they do need to make money, but like the rate at which they do it, I think like okay, you're obviously don't need to make that much money off of each transaction for certain things. And there are some games
Yeah.
that don't do it as bad as other games, and obviously and stuff like. But there are definitely some companies out there that charges certain uh, in-game purchases and stuff like.
Yeah, that can be a topic for another episode.
Yeah, like the whole in-game purchase things. Like, I'm not a fan of in-game purchasing. Like, I usually don't do in-game purchases.
I mean, one game that actually I feel does it pretty decently. It's free to play, no pay to win, no pay to play if you don't want to, and it's live service. Do you know what game I'm talking about?
Probably that stupid soccer car game that you play.
Rocket League. Yes.
That's what I said. Stupid car soccer.
Literally, that game, you can just jump in, use the cosmetics that you get right from the gate, and enjoy it. You don't have to pay for anything. They have a free version of their season pass. They have a paid version of their season pass. And all you get with the paid version are basically really cool cosmetics. It
Yeah.
does not enhance your gameplay. You don't get any buffs.
Yeah, there's a lot of games that do stuff like that nowadays with the season pass thing. There's the free version where you don't get as much stuff or you don't get as cool of stuff, and they have the paid version where you get more stuff, more credits to unlock customizables or whatever stuff. Like
Yeah.
there's the new PGA game that I have on my Xbox. I forget the name. I think it's PGA Tour or something like that. I forget the exact name of it, but like, yeah, it's got the free version of the stuff, and as long as you do certain amounts of things, and level up enough in the game, you get the free bonuses, or you can buy the Pro Edition or pay for the Pro Edition season pass with its monthly charge, where you get definitely more stuff. There are some customizables that are locked into the thing, like you said with Rocket League, where like, oh, you'll get this kind of car or this kind of paint job available on the Pro one that's not available to the free one, and
Yeah.
yeah, there's lots of games that do that kind of stuff nowadays. So like, I'm not
And I'm perfectly fine with it.
as long as they have the free version available too, and like
Yeah.
people with a disposable income that really want all that extra stuff, that's fine. Go ahead and pay for it. Like, I don't care.
Oh, yeah.
However, the difference between the one I was talking about, the golf game, and your Rocket League is a free to play game from the beginning. Whereas
Yeah.
the golf one, I actually had to buy the game, and it was like, I think I got it on sale for like 30 or $40. But if you bought it brand new, it's like 50, $60, like most games.
Was that PGA? Was that PGA Tour 23?
It might have been 23. I think it was. It's not PGA Tour because that's the other one. I think it was the Masters or something. Like, I could turn on my
Okay.
Xbox right now and figure out what the name of it was called. It doesn't freaking matter. They're all kind of same. But it was like, yeah, it's like, when you bought the game, it's the price of a game nowadays. So at least 40, 50, $60. I mean,
That's 70 minimum these days for a brand new game.
yeah, I guess it depends on, like, certain games still are at the 50, $60 range when they drop.
Well, that's for like a small game. Like the new Assassin's Creed Mirage was like, what, 40, $50?
Yeah, something like that. I was gonna say I've seen it fairly cheap since it's
Yeah.
compared to certain other troll games. Like, yeah, like there are definitely games that like $80 nowadays, and that's not even for the special editions. The special editions I see are like over 100 freaking bucks. I'm like, I am not
Oh, yeah.
spend over $100 on a video game.
Um, guilty. Guilty when I had the money.
I guess I can't really say that because like I did say I bought the Starfield special edition, and that was right around $100. I think it might have been a little over. So
Man, back in the day when I had a little bit of extra money and wasn't dirt broke, yeah, I got a few well, not collector's editions, no, the ultimate editions, which would come in the tin cases and you'd get a whole bunch of extra stuff, and those are like 100 to 110.
yeah, like I liked the hard case editions of
Yeah.
games. I still have a few floating around here somewhere. Like I used to have the Mass Effect collection that came in the hard case and everything. I'm sure I have it around here somewhere, but
I still remember one of the best DLCs that I got was part of the special edition of the base game that I got. It was also my very first aluminum case game back on the Xbox 360. It was Star Wars: The Force Unleashed, Ultimate Sith Edition, and it had a bunch of DLC for it that you could not just get in the base game. And I don't remember if you could actually buy the DLC separate online through the store, or if you had to buy the physical disc edition. So technically, it's not DLC, but you could still classify it today as DLC.
right, like there've definitely been a few collector editions of games I bought. Like
Yeah, like that was a gift I got. So
when Oblivion first came out, I did buy the collector's edition, and it was cool because you got the game. It didn't come in a hard case, which I wish it had, but
Oh,
it also came with like bonus stuff. Like there was a little book that came with it, which was the Pocket Guide to the Empire, and like it had like a bunch of lore and history of the world in it. Like it was
oh yeah.
physical book that you could sit there and read. It came with a coin that was the money in the game, so like you got a replica.
Oh, sick.
Like so, it's like I still have the coin somewhere, so it's a
Yeah.
septim is what they call their gold coins, but like it actually had like it was like a real physical coin about the size of I think of a 50 cent piece or maybe a silver dollar, but it wasn't really gold obviously because that would have been a shit ton of money, but like it had like the emperor's face on the one side and you flip it over, it had like the whole uh what do you call it, the symbol for the imperial empire and stuff, the whole dragon symbol, which is actually the same symbol for Skyrim, which a lot of people who don't play all the games don't know that. They think that that symbol just came from Skyrim. Like, nope, that's been the symbol for the Empire since the original Elder Scrolls game came out.
Right.
Like they've had that little dragon emblem thing. Like I'm sure you've seen it. The little freaking it looks like a
Oh yeah.
thing.
Yeah, yeah. I know what you're talking about.
A lot of people that started playing Elder Scrolls games at Skyrim think like, oh, that's just the Skyrim logo. I'm like, that's actually the Imperial logo. That's why even in Skyrim, any of the Imperial bases have that symbol on their flag.
So yeah, DLC. It is an interesting subject to dissect.
Yeah, it is.
Okay, here's a question regarding DLC, as well as having split generations for games. Because as we know, usually whenever one generation is coming to an end, there's always an overlap where developers will have the same game for, say, the Xbox One and then the Xbox Series, or PS4 into PS5, where you have the same game for both, okay?
Yeah.
But then, using Cyberpunk as the example here, their Phantom Liberty DLC is only for the Series slash PlayStation 5 consoles. I'm not even sure it's available. Yeah, I guess it's on PC, but I'm not even classifying it for.
Because I own it.
Yeah, well, I'm not even classifying PC in this case because PC gets everything. Let's face it.
That's saying I say it as a joke. So like I'm not really.
But again, how do you feel about DLC when it gets released for the newer consoles, but not the older ones, when the base game is on both?
Uh
Like, that's a controversial hot take right there.
I can understand certain aspects of it because, as you said, like with Cyberpunk as your example, like the technology between the Xbox One generation and the Xbox Series generation is different, so they can accomplish more stuff. Like I've never played what you might call a Cyberpunk on the one. I've only
Right.
I've only ever played it on PC because I didn't even get it on the series version. But like everything that I've heard and of stuff, like even like yeah, they have the two different versions of the game, the one generation and the series generation. Like if you're playing it on the one, it's from what I've heard from people who have played both, it's not worth playing on the one because it's so much better. And like a lot of the bugs, I'll admit, even on the series and the PS5 generation, there were still a lot of bugs when that game first dropped, but they weren't as bad
Oh yeah.
as the Xbox One, PS4 generations version of it. Just because those old consoles really couldn't handle the game. Like it should have
No.
never have been released on them, which I know for you would have sucked because I know you like the Cyberpunk game and you only have the one.
Uh, well, for clarification, I have the Xbox One S, which is a step up from the original Xbox One. Just for the record.
Yes, it's still a step up, but it's still the old generation. Like there's even though
Yeah.
it's a step up from the one, the series generation is a step up from that.
Leaps and bounds. Yeah.
So yeah, it's like yours is a little step up, the other one is like a whole flight of stairs step up.
I say a whole building step up.
For the actual core capabilities of it, yeah, but also like an example of what you said, like I had the Series S for the longest time. My brother recently got one, but before he did, he was still playing the one, even though I kept telling him he needs to update his one because it was getting old and slow and wearing out and took like 20 minutes to load a freaking game. But
Man, I'm still there with certain games.
But at the time, like he still had the one, and he's a big fan of the sports games. So for one of his birthdays, I bought him one of the basketball games. At the time, it was the new one, NBA 2K, whatever. But I got him the bundle package that had both versions of the Xbox One and the Series XS.
Um,
So when he did step up to the finally got the Series S, he was able to then start playing the better version of it, and he's like, yeah, it's a little different. It's obviously graphically better and stuff was the major difference, but nowadays when he looks at it, he's like, why do I have two copies of this game? It's like, it's because I bought you the bundle version, you dumb dumb, and you forget that. So like in his digital game catalog, like it'll show like, hey, you have the Xbox One version and you have the XS version, and since the XS is the backwards compatible. He could play the one version on his Series S, or he can play the.
let me ask this. Does that game have DLC exclusive to the series over the one?
I don't think so. I don't know that that game has a whole lot of DLC to it.
Fair enough.
Like it's like the sports games
Like,
don't really get DLC.
fair, fair. And that'll be a discussion for another day as well. Um,
What they get is the next year's game, which is basically the same game. So we a little bit the other day in our personal conversation.
and we'll do a whole episode on that. Don't you worry, people. Don't you worry. Um, but getting back to the whole concept of DLC for a split gen, how do you feel about that concept of, like, I'm remembering back to even going from the Xbox 360 to the Xbox One, uh, certain games that were cross gen or cross platform. Some games got DLC, some games didn't. Or versions of the games, rather. So this isn't a new concept, but at the same time,
Cross platform is a whole different thing than cross gen.
yeah, yeah, you know what I mean.
Yes, I know, I know. I'm like, it's a similar issue, but it's a different issue because, again, like we were talking about the other day, like Skyrim is a cross-platform game, and on the newer versions of it, where you can mod on console, Xbox version has more mods available to it than the PlayStation version does because of PlayStation's like, nope, you can't do this certain stuff, and Xbox says, yeah, you can do certain stuff, but you still can't do as much as you can on the PC version. The biggest difference for the reason why you can do more stuff on the PC version versus the Xbox version is the size cap that they let you download mods for. I think it's capped at, I think, 5 gigabytes, which for some people, yeah, that's plenty of mods, but for some mods, there are certain mods that are like bigger than 5 gigabytes, so you would never be able to get that mod plus the mods required because certain mods do require other mods to be able to function.
So then the question is it a good idea to put out DLC for, say, an Xbox, say, One game, pardon, for an Xbox Series game that is not on the One? Like, is that really a good idea to do that?
It sucks for people who are like in your position that still only have the one, even though, yeah, technically you have the One S, but it's still an Xbox One. But yeah, like it sucks for you guys, but at the same time, it's like, well, should the people who do own the newer systems that have the capability of running that DLC should be screwed out of it because your other version can't get it?
That's why I'm almost questioning people developing games for both generations. Like the same game for both.
Hey man, Skyrim's been on 3 generations and it's still going strong.
Yeah, Skyrim isn't in class all to itself, let's face it.
Yes and no, but however,
But you get what I'm saying.
yeah, like I still have my 360 version of Skyrim, which it came out on originally. I mean, it is the special edition, so it's got all the bonus content DLC. However, I will say Skyrim also, though, even though it's available on all three systems, there is no specific DLC that you can only get on the newer systems. Mods, different story because that's not technically DLC. I mean, it is, but it isn't because it's not anything.
Mods are a class all to themselves.
Yeah, but like technically they are. If you want to get down to the bare knuckles of it, they are DLC.
Downloadable content.
Yeah, like they are DLC. But they're just created by people and stuff. One thing I do enjoy about Bethesda Studios is they are very open to the modding community where certain games are like, no, don't mod my crap. Don't do this. We're not going to give you access to that kind of stuff. Whereas Bethesda's like, heck yeah, go ahead, mod the crap out of this game. Here's all the source files that you would need and everything.
Yeah, that's one thing that really irritates me about the Forza franchise is they're like, oh yeah, we have all these really cool traffic vehicles, but PC players do not mod our game so you can drive those vehicles, and we'll never give you access to them anyways. So we'll penalize you if you actually want to play them. And that's just like, are you kidding me? Give the players what they want so you don't have to worry about people modding your game if you don't want your game modded.
Yeah, it's like to me,
But
any company that like does not like modding is just dumb because
oh
Bethesda and Skyrim
no,
point proven that like allowing mods and allowing stuff significantly increases the longevity of your game. I mean, that game is
games with leaderboards, games with leaderboards, I'll agree to disagree with you on because if you mod a game that has leaderboards, then you have PC players with heavily modded accounts setting times, records, whatever that regular console players cannot keep up with.
I'm not talking about like competitive type games. I'm talking about like single player kind of stuff that's like any games that don't allow the modding for that is just like dumb because
Right.
Skyrim and Bethesda point proven proves that it significantly increases the longevity of the game. There are people that still go out and buy Skyrim and play Skyrim, myself included, to this day, and that game is over 10 years old. The original vanilla version of the game came out 11/11/11. I know this. Trust me, I'm a Skyrim.
Yeah, you're Skyrim, you're a Bethesda nut.
I
We
totally.
own.
It's not a bug; it's a feature. But also going back to about the modding is like a lot of the bugs in Bethesda games have been fixed through modding.
Okay, I feel like we could have a whole episode dedicated to modding.
Yeah, like, and some people will say, well, like that's a cop out. Bethesda should fix the bugs themselves. Like, I can kind of agree with that too. Like, Bethesda should do a better job of releasing games that aren't as buggy and stuff. But like, even the best company, like best games, come out with bugs in them. You're never gonna come out with a game that is 100% free of bugs ever. Bethesda does release games with more bugs than they should sometimes. I will definitely agree with that. But also, the good thing about Bethesda and the modding community is they have hired people from the modding community to come and work in their studios and work on the next, which I think is a great thing that Bethesda does. I'm like,
Oh yeah.
they will have many employees who work for them now have come from the modding community, which is freaking awesome and great. So I'm like, it's a great thing. But yeah, we could definitely spend hours and hours and hours talking about mods. Like the most I obviously know more about Bethesda mods than anything else because I play a lot of Bethesda games and they're the mods I use.
What are we going to be talking about in this podcast series?
I don't know. You're in charge of it. I'm just here for credit.
Anything and everything video game, whether it's a specific game, concepts related to gaming, game development, all of the above, anything and everything video games. So stick around, stay tuned, and enjoy. Our videos, our podcasts, our content will only get better with your awesome following of us. So like, subscribe, click that bell, turn on your notifications, and comment. Your feedback will help shape what we do here.